Would you like to go first, Danny?
Yes, I mean, it's once again, it's us pushing each other. It's very diverse album, and just creatively going down other paths. You know, I think after writing over 100 and something songs together, the biggest challenge is always trying to bring something to the table that's going to continue to inspire each other. And you got to shut off the outside world and don't think about what management or the label or radio or the fans want or are expecting. If I present something to them, you know, they're the only critics I'm concerned about. I want to make sure that any of my ideas are going to inspire them, and vice versa. So we're always pushing each other to try new things and try to continue developing as musicians and songwriters.
But this one is really different, like really different. Half the record is at least something that the core fans will be familiar with, comfortable with, energized and invigorated by. The other half is going to be a nice smack on the other side of the face. Very, very, very different. As big of a contrast as you could possibly imagine. So, powerful songs. You know, as far as a collection, as far as a body of work, there's really nothing we've created that we're more proud of. But it's definitely called evolution for a very, very specific reason.
I think it's also one of the, if not the most personal record that we've ever done. I mean, everything we do, we put our heart, souls into, but this one we really went pretty deep on.
I think for one, I mean, when we get in a room together, there's no rules, there's no limits. I mean, it's just music. You gotta do what you feel like doing. So there's, as far as instrumentation, I mean, we were tapping into playing a didgeridoo, playing a mandolin, playing acoustic guitars, playing piano, just melodic, great harmonies. We were kind of tapping into our love for classic rock music and going back to some of those great bands from 60s and 70s that wrote amazing songs. And we're trying to channel some of that and see, besides the growing up on the classic metal bands that we were big fans of, we were very inspired by those classic rock bands, and we've kind of missed that these days. And we were trying to channel that a little bit more, trying to push each other to just write songs with no rules, nobody telling us anything. And that's always been the beauty with us making our albums, is we never play anything for the record label or anyone until we're done making the album we want to make. And so we're lucky we had that luxury of people staying out of our way and let us just do what we do.
Of course, if you're not very good at it, they don't give you that luxury to begin with. So we've earned a little bit of space. But, you know, to Danny's point, both Warner and Q Prime have been so trusting and so supportive through this entire process, and it's been an adventure for us. A lot of this is uncharted territory for us as a band. You know, half the record is, I guess, what you could call ballads, but it's hard to truly encompass everything that half of the record represents just by that term alone, because each one of the songs, whether it's heavy or not, definitely, beyond any shadow of doubt, has its very own, very strong identity. Each track is very, very different from every other track on this record, and uniquely powerful, uniquely hooky. It was an adventure creating it, and it'll be quite the adventure listening to it. So many. You go ahead.
I mean, it's funny how over this past album cycle, how our playlist in the dressing room was a big inspiration of that. We kind of changed and steered away from some of the typical obvious stuff we normally listen to and returned back to that stuff. So it was bands like, you know, Kansas and Toto and CCR, and I mean, just the list of
Eagles.
the Eagles, all the great classic
Journey.
ones.
Yeah.
A lot of the older vocal bands, the harmony bands, also like you had mentioned already, some of the progressive bands, like the bands that didn't follow the rules, they didn't follow the formulas.
Yes.
Sticks.
A lot of bands
Yes.
that probably, if they started today, wouldn't be able to get a record deal because of the way things are so formulaic today.
That's definitely something you can't say about any of this record, as it's certainly not formulaic.
You mentioned, David, in one of your studio updates that this is war. What did you mean by that?
You fight for the strength of your creation. Whenever you go into create, it's a battle. It's a battle to get your creation to be as powerful as it can be. It's a battle of creative forces with very strong minds, each one with their own creative vision and their own creative sense of thoughts. And you fight to create the strongest pieces of art that you can create as a unit. It's not an easy process. Anybody that told you or tells you it's easy is just lying. Even when it comes easy, there's aspects of difficulty to it. There's aspects of depth. Sometimes a song can take a day to write. Sometimes it could take a week to write. Sometimes it takes months to complete. But every single one of them has its own intricacies and complexities and challenges that you have to face as an artist. And it's a war worth waging. So. For me, the heavier stuff came easier, just because it's, I guess, what we're used to. Although I still do very much believe that the heavy stuff on this record is at a level that is unprecedented for us as well. But each time we stepped outside of the wheelhouse, each time we tried to branch out creatively, stylistically, you're in uncharted territory, so you're feeling your way around in the dark a little bit. It can be a little intimidating, but you rely on the creative forces that are there with you. I always rely on the opinions of my brothers here, and to kind of use them as a barometer for what seems to be resonating and what doesn't, and we rely on each other for that. That was actually originally Mr. Cliff Bernstein's idea.
From management.
Yeah. And great idea. Drew in the bass right away to make them feel involved, and they were. It was a contest that, to us, we win either way. People are going to vote for what they're more passionate about hearing out of the gate. They're going to get both anyway. So it was a brilliant way to bring people into the fold early on. And just seeing the amount of passion and fervor and tenacity of the fan base in the voting process was quite entertaining to behold. Well, Are You Ready is speaking to the subjugation of humanity, essentially. We're all imprisoned in one way or another. We're all victims of a system that keeps us subjugated, that likes to keep us controlled. And the song is encouraging people to break free, to no longer be prey. So much of humanity, so much of the world is viewed, is set up in two different demographics, predator and prey. And the powerful, the predators, are always taking advantage of the weak, and it takes the weak to suddenly recognize that they have made the conscious decision to no longer be prey and to show their strength and to show their power, and by doing so, to no longer allow themselves to be preyed upon. Always. There's pressure.
I mean, it's always going to be lingering in the back of our heads. I mean, but most importantly, we just got to try to stay focused on just making that album that we want to make. And when it's done and we could sit back now that it's finished and listen to it and appreciate it ourselves and just, we'll see. I mean, the fans have always stepped up to the plate and they've always been dedicated for almost 2 decades now with us. And even after the hiatus, and they've always shown that they're always ready for us. They're always waiting, and we'll see what happens.
The worst pressure isn't external; it's internal. We're horrific to ourselves as far as that's concerned. We want to always outdo what we just did. We always want to somehow continue to keep raising that invisible bar. It gets daunting after a while, but thankfully we haven't failed at that challenge, at least in our opinions, yet. Hopefully everybody agrees with us on this one.
Well, I think one of the things, too, I want to add is we've never always thought we have to play it safe and thought, well, just because we did it 1, 2, 3, 4, now 5 times in a row and we're going for 6, do we play it safe, give them what they want? Do we go back to the core of the band from the early days and that? And we'd be cheating ourselves if we're trying to chase something, too. And with that kind of on the horizon of something of an achievement that's still maybe there for us to grab, we totally took the biggest risk we ever took, if you're going to call it a risk, of really branching out with this material. So it's definitely not, wasn't a concern of trying to play it safe to give them why. It was just not cheating ourselves out or our fans of doing that. We were always going to try to create. We're always going to try to push to give them something new and exciting.
It's funny that you bring that up because I did an interview yesterday, and one of the questions was asking about taking the risk of doing songs like that outside the box, and he actually used the term adventurous. And I said, well, now you actually make me feel really good about that decision. Not that I didn't before, because in the past, with the song Inside the Fire, a member of our team in the past criticized a song initially early on when we were writing it, calling it adventurous. When we opted to stick with our plan and write the song the way we chose to write it, and then lo and behold, later on it was nominated for a Grammy. So we just
being adventurous.
Exactly.
It's very important. We have a fantastic relationship with radio. Radio's been a huge part of how we've been able to have this amazing career that we've been blessed with. And we value our relationship and our partnership with radio tremendously. Let me add to that by saying that as much as we value that relationship and as near and dear as it is to us, we never create with radio in our head, if that makes any sense. We wouldn't replace the relationship for anything. There's tremendous value. We recognize how much we've meant to one another over the course of the years. But when we create and when we write, it's exclusively from the perspective of, have we created something that resonates within the band members? Regardless of whether it follows a particular formula, doesn't follow a particular formula, at the end of the day, is it an incredible song? Does it have a great hook? Does it make you feel a certain way? Does it stick in your head after you've listened to it? All those factors. Those are the primary concerns that we choose to recognize, and hopefully, if we've been respectful to those concerns and we've paid attention to each other, radio will end up agreeing. Strange opportunities.
There were quite a few. I think one that was really kind of blew me away personally was when we were contacted by an astronaut from NASA that sent us an email. He was a big fan of the band. He loved our version of The Sound of Silence and asked permission if NASA could use it for a video montage they were doing from space footage.
From the ISS.
Yeah. And, I mean, that was of course, we're like, of course you could use it. It was a pretty amazing. I mean, there were so many during the cycle because new things pop up all over with the Olympic skaters, I think, from France, and fighters. And we had the opportunity with the Klitschko Tyson Fury fight, but that ended up getting canceled. The fight did because of drug use or something. But many things popped up along the way,
And still are. It's crazy.
The Olympics. I mean,
Yeah.
the Olympics. There's so
The
many. Dancing with the Stars.
Dancing with the Stars, the grand finale with the deaf contestant that ended up winning, and he contacted us personally, asking permission to use it for the final show, and stuff we never imagined, what would happen, or contacting us to use.
I never imagined that our performance on Conan would end up being the most watched on his show of all time. So all kinds of unprecedented surprises.
What do you say?
We say, there
That's
he is.
total
There's
Mike.
Mike.
Total Mike. I don't have his moves.
Yeah.
It takes a couple drinks to get me going, though. So I don't know if that's part of the
It's
show or not.
It's the drumming in him. He's got some rhythm back there, and he's not shy about it. Me, I need a few shots before I get the courage, but he's already doing it before we hit the stage. He's dancing in the dressing room.
First and foremost, unfortunately, nothing came of it. Which, by the way, NFL, if you're ever still looking, we're still interested in playing the Super Bowl halftime show. We do it cheap.
Yeah.
No, we're big fans of the sport. I still try to be a Bears fan, and I will continue to try and be a Bears fan as long as I live. Grew up in Chicago. It's never really going to go away for me. We'll see what happens this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's always Bears fan first.
Yeah.
I know I get a lot of heat because I have adopted a second team along the way, and it sounds like I'm a bandwagoner because I'm a Patriots fan, but it's more so over the years of I love the city of Boston, and we have friends there, and we go there all the time. Even when we're not touring, we try to make visits there, and it just so happens that they're a dynasty team, and with a good-looking quarterback that gets that my wife loves and every other girl, and so they think we're on the bandwagon for that. And my dog's name is actually Brady, that she named, but
Brady Tom Tom.
yeah. Thank you for adding that. But when it comes down to which the Patriots are coming here this year, I'm rooting for the Bears. So it's Bears fan first.
I don't really have an allegiance to an NFL team, but I live in Wisconsin, and everybody I know as Packers. I have a hard time with that because born and raised in Chicago, it's like I'm a diehard Blackhawks fan, and it would be like someone having allegiance to the Red Wings, which can't do. So I can't say that I have an allegiance to anybody. You know what? Actually, it's always all Chicago. It's got to always be Chicago first. So
Comes back full circle.
work ethic.
Big part of it.
Mutual respect within us.
Bigger part of it. Mutual respect is huge. There's a lot of bands that have a great work ethic. There's not enough that have the level of mutual respect and admiration that we do. And we're also very, very fortunate, and this is not a scientific thing, and it's not something you can practice at or try. Thankfully, what are we, 22 years in now on this thing? The well hasn't run dry. We're still able to write proficiently. We're still able to come up with great hooks. We're still able to write great songs. And we're very, very lucky with that.
And the fire still burns deep within us all.
For
Got
sure.
medication for that.
I was told it was
I was
supposed to go
told.
away
I don't-
after
I
a
don't
couple
know.
days.
Oh, you
but
guys
it
don't have
still
that
hurts
too?
a little bit. Yeah. Put it down now.
Don't
Stop
do it.
Truth be told is that it's been refreshing to see some of the new generation picking up real instruments and picking up guitars. Like, oh God, I always forget his name.
There's just one kid.
No. Huge singer-songwriter guy, redhead. No?
Ed Sheeran?
Yeah, like Ed Sheeran, for example. Or even when, Taylor Swift will pick up a guitar and play it live during concert. All those moments is like, I'm thanking God that there's a pop person picking up a real instrument and playing and doing that in front of a crowd and doing it well. Sheeran especially, I think he's brilliant. There isn't enough of it. Too many of the new generation, I've gotten so accustomed just turning on the computer, pressing a couple settings, and with a whole bunch of makeshift, make-believe instruments and pasting them on a screen, and that ends up becoming music. And not that there isn't artistry to that, not that there isn't creativity involved in it, but there's something transcendent about having some strings and a piece of wood, become the instrument that creates the sound. There's something transcendent about the human body being the instrument that makes the sound. It's different than just pressing a button. And I think that it's so important for the new generation of musicians out there to know what it is to create on something physical as opposed to something electronic. I plead the fifth. I myself personally, and the band in general, to be perfectly honest, we've made a very conscious decision to no longer engage in any of that on any level. People are going to have opinions. People are going to get offended. It's part of what happens in today's society. And it's not our interest to engage in any of it at this point. The music should speak for itself. The subject matter within the music should speak for itself. And if we're to be judged by anything, let it be the music that we've written and that we play and our performance live. You go first.
Well, let's see. It's always hard to pick. I'd say probably because of last album cycle, I love some of those live moments with the song like The Light. There's just always a big crowd moment. David's engaging with the crowd, and those choruses hit, and they're lighting up the whole stadium with lighters or cell phones or whatever, and it's just it's a powerful moment, and it's a personal song to all of us. I think we've connected with it, lyrically on a big level, and obviously the fans do too. So that one's a good one, and just to see and have this new spot in the set when we have a song like that or Sound of Silence in it, it's nice to have a bit of that roller coaster ride within the set that changes the mood and the emotion and the look, and you can see the same kid that may have been in the mosh pit 2 songs earlier, you could see him coming to tears within one of those songs, and it's like you really know it's hitting home with them on whatever personal connection they find within those songs. It's pretty powerful to see that music can do that to people, and you see the different emotions throughout the night.
Yeah, I can't really outdo that. I pretty much share that sentiment. I mean, there's definitely the powerful moments in the set that are not necessarily tied to the more laid back, more emotion heavy. Oh, they're all emotion heavy. That's not the right way to describe it. But The Light and The Sound of Silence are 2 very different type of vibes from what most of the bludgeoning aspects of the set convey. And I like the bludgeoning aspects of the set too, but I truly do look forward to that point of the night where Danny gets on the piano and, Mikey gets on different kind of percussion and we get to do The Sound of Silence live. That's probably one of my favorite parts of the night. That's kind of the Kisses Rock and Roll All Night and Party Every Day song that we'll have to play for the rest of our career, just like we do have to do Down with the Sickness, that I always look forward to. It's just one of those really transcendent moments between us and the crowd. It's very unique.
Yeah, not to sound like a broken record player here, but I have to concur. For me as well, I get to play timpani on the song. I get to come off the kit and come down and be closer to the crowd and watch these tears flowing down people's cheeks. It's incredible. I don't usually get to see that back up on the riser. But then at the same time, I also love the pyro songs where there's fire and just bashing the drums and everything is going around. Something very primal about that too. But yeah, definitely Sound of Silence.
Yeah, I think there's many times in the early stages of a tour when we know there's pyro coming up, sometimes we turn our back to the crowd because we want to see it too. And we're like, we have our moments. Mikey's almost on fire back there because he's getting it the worst. But we have those little kid moments ourselves of turning around to see it too. When it's behind us, we want to experience the look of it.
We like burning things. I hope not. I don't want to be cured.
I'm kind of more of a cookies and cream kind of guy.
What's up? Yeah,
They-
cream.
They have this flavor at Ben & Jerry's, and I can't remember what the hell it's called. It's some sort of unbelievably decadent and evil combination of things, and I can't remember what. It's like a whole bunch of different cookies and chocolate and vanilla and whatever the hell it is.
Like Jerry Garcia. Isn't there one called that?
Yeah, but I don't dig that one. It's something with like I don't know. It's a bunch of cookies and chocolate and vanilla and something like that. So it's good.
So you guys got all that fun stuff going on. I'm super boring. I just like plain vanilla. French vanilla. There you go. Ooh. Oui, oui.
Oh. Ride the lightning. For me.
I'm going to say probably Alice in Chains, Dirt.
Good one.
All good choices. I think where I'm in these days, just the Eagles' greatest hits.
Halford.
Not in this room.
Halford. Screamers. And he's not really a screamer, though. See, it all depends on how you define screamers. These days, I don't know what the difference is anymore in the definition. Are we talking about like metalcore scream? Are we talking about a melodic scream? Are we talking about let's go through the 50 different subgenres of metal and hard rock and every other different variation of scream. We're going according to the old school definitions. To me, Halford and Dickinson are the two best at what they do that are still living. Ronnie James Dio wasn't necessarily a screamer, but he was able to execute those high notes at such a high level of proficiency that even though they had a little bit of that rasp, and still all that high up there, and you're wondering how the hell is he pulling it off. I mean, those three guys are like my trifecta. I the best of the best of the best of the best to me. Made us appreciate each other, big time. You don't know what you got till it's gone, that kind of thing. But it wasn't gone, thank God. But we stepped away from it long enough that you begin to realize very, very clearly that the grass is not greener on the other side of the fence, and to appreciate that when you're lucky enough to stumble upon the mystical combination of elements and the people that make up those elements that gave you the blessing you've been given, gave us Disturbed, that it's a very unique thing. It's a very special thing, and it's not something that comes along every day. So even though it's nice to branch out and try different things, it's made it that much more satisfying to come back home. We don't know. We honestly don't know. We're still putting it together. We're still feeling it out. I guess it'll really be determined by demand and stamina and tolerance. And
I'm sure along the way, I mean, look, we have Disturbed ones everywhere around the world, and they gave us this life. We're going to do what we can do to keep pressing forward to bring them the show and show our appreciation for all their dedication to us. And that takes time to get to everybody, throughout the U.S. and Canada and Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Russia, South America. I mean, down the line, it just we're going to try to keep up as best we can, but eventually we'll get to all of them again.
Yeah, there's plenty of places we haven't had the chance to be yet, too.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Like parts of Eastern Europe we haven't gone to, parts of Asia we haven't gone to. South Africa, would love to go to. So many parts of the world. Just that, we couldn't be more proud of what we're about to unleash on the world. We've been waiting patiently, or rather impatiently, I should say, like expectant parents for this baby to be born for a good number of months. And even though it hasn't been a secret, for at least some of this to finally see the light of day is going to be refreshing. So can't wait for people to hear it.